Okay, they were predicting the Minnesota Vikings record prediction. So pretty much consensus is that Minnesota's going to do worse this year. They aren't going to get as lucky as they were last year. Their offense looks good though. Their offense looks really good. Um, I like their backup RB Madison. Kirk Cousins should be as good stuff. They still have a lethal wide receiving core. Their offensive line hopefully holds up. Defense though, it's just their defense is not good. Their their defensive line, their linebacker, their secondary really is not that good. And I don't think the Brian Flores hire will be too much because their cornerbacks, even though they did sign Ryan Murphy's, I don't think their cornerbacks are good enough to run that Brian Flores' blitz heavy scheme. But you do have your first game versus the Bucks. Bucks are going to be starting Baker Mayfield. They Bucks still have talent though. Their defense, they still have like people like Vita Vea, Winfield, I believe, is still with the Bucks. Not sure on that. You gotta fact check that. And Buccaneers offense though is a really big duo of wide receivers. That can definitely cause problems for that Vikings defense. But I think the Vikings offense is more explosive than the Bucks offense, and Kirk Cousins better than Baker Mayfield. So I'm gonna take the Vikings. And then you have week 2 versus the Eagles. I think this game is gonna go. It's gonna go the same way it did last year. The Eagles with home field advantage is absolutely gonna blow out the Vikings. So I'm taking the Eagles here. And then you have week 3 versus the Chargers. Chargers are definitely a tough team with Justin Herbert, Eckler. Chargers defense though they might improve if J.C. Jackson gets healthy. Khalil Mack gets healthy can definitely cause problems. But I think the Vikings offense is explosive enough to handle the um to handle the Chargers, and they have home field advantage. So I'm giving it to the Vikings. And you have them versus the Panthers. I like the Panthers team. Bryce Young, not sure how he's gonna do. Bryce Young's probably gonna be very young. Um, that Panthers team in general is very young. Frank Wright is not the head coach. I like him as a head coach. The Vikings, I think they match up well against the Panthers. They have a really strong offense, while the Panthers defense is good but young, and the Panthers offense I don't think is anything special, at least not right now. So I'm gonna take the Vikings. Week 5 against the Chiefs. Chiefs are just offensively way too explosive for that Vikings defense to handle. This could be an upset, but I'm still taking the Chiefs. And then you have them versus the Bears. Bears Justin Fields can definitely cause a huge problem for the Vikings. Um, but similarly, it's early in the season. I think the Bears' new talent is going to take some time to gel. And I think the Vikings' defense pass rushers can cause problems on Fields. And the Bears' defense, I don't think, did enough. They did sign Edmonds, but overall, I don't think that Bears' defense is good enough to stop the Vikings' offense. So I'm going to take the Vikings here. And you have them versus the Niners. Niners are talented in pretty much every way. The only way Vikings can win this, in my book, is that they have a big home field advantage. Even though they are in a dome, so it's not as big as I would have liked, or the Niners quarterback let them down, but I'm gonna still take the Niners here. And then you have them versus the Packers. Packers, I'm not sure how Jordan Love is gonna do, but I think he's gonna do well against the Vikings. And this is a divisional game, so always hard to predict. So I'm giving it to the Packers here. And then you have week 9 versus the Falcons. All I have to say is the Falcons' run game is going to be a huge problem. I don't think the Vikings defense can stop Atlanta's run game. And this is going to be another high scoring game. Even with Desmond Ridder starting, Atlanta's run game is just going to be too much. That Vikings offense will do another absolute great game, but their defense will be too bad. So I'm going to take the Falcons here. And then you have them versus the Saints. Saints, they have got Derek Carr, but I don't think Derek Carr is all the hype that he's getting. So I do think he's gonna have a good game though, but I think that Saints defense is a little bit overrated, so I'm gonna give it to the Vikings. And then you have um, the them against the Broncos. Broncos have a huge home field advantage, first of all, and I think that Broncos defense will be good enough. One of the few defense that will be good enough to stop the Vikings, and um, Broncos defense or offense, I think will make a huge bounce back with Payne. So I'm taking the Broncos here. You have them versus the Bears. I had the Vikings win the first game. I don't think the Bears let the Vikings sweep them, so I'm taking the Bears here. Then you have them versus the Raiders. Raiders are coming off a bye. The Raiders are very interesting. I'm not sure who their quarterback is, but if I just predicting this based off Jimmy G. Jimmy G is a very usually safe quarterback, so I don't think he's going to make that big mistake. Raiders defense is another very bad defense. Raiders do have home field advantage, but I'm taking the Vikings here. You have them versus the Bengals. Bengals talent wise, their offense is way too explosive for the Vikings to contain. I'm taking the Bengals. And you have them versus the Lions. Lions another young upstart team. Lions offense is very explosive. Their defense though, I think could be better. They did sign that Steelers cornerback, but I'm still taking the Vikings. Either way, they're both high offenses with flawed defenses, but I'm taking the Vikings for the first one. You have Week 17 versus the Packers. I don't think the Packers sweep the Vikings, so I'm taking the Vikings here. Similarly, I don't think the Vikings will sweep the Lions, so I'm taking the Lions here. So in the end, the Vikings going 8-9, 3-3 in the division, 5-3 at home, and 3-6 away.